Hey guys, today I want to talk about migrating for the occupation social worker. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tracy Chen and I am a migration lawyer in Australia. I've actually been a migration lawyer for 6 years now, working specifically and exclusively in Australian immigration. I am the principal lawyer at Mason Chen Law Group. If you want to get in contact with myself or one of our fabulous lawyers or agents, our official contact link, email and phone number is below. Now, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with people who need it. It really helps my channel. And also, very exciting news, I have released mini courses on courses.tracymigration.com.au. Website is linked below. You can access free courses. There are some paid courses as well, but it's all there for you to see. Let's get stuck into it. Now, you may have seen in my previous videos that in Australia, you can migrate through skilled migration. And what that actually means is you migrate through your occupation. So that's why you hear a lot of people say, oh, nursing, community worker, teacher, popular PR courses, stuff like that. What they're actually trying to say is that this occupation is in demand in Australia. So Australia needs more social workers. Australia needs more registered nurses. Therefore, you have a good opportunity. You have good prospects in applying for permanent residency because it's in demand. And one of the occupations that we've really seen in demand over the last couple of years is the social worker. Now, it's important to note that this occupation is different to community service worker. It's different to disability support worker. Is different to personal care aid. A social worker in Australia, you must have completed a university bachelor degree or higher, and that is just a requirement here in Australia. A social worker works in a number of different settings. So this includes aged care, community centers, as well as hospitals. There's always a social worker there. Actually, my grandma is in an aged care home at the moment. She has dementia, so obviously everybody from the aged care home communicates with myself or my mother. And the person we regularly speak to is a social worker. So that social worker is that person between some allied health professionals and the actual patient, because they are there to provide extra support to the patients. Now, to give more clarity on this, I will drop a link below to Australia's official interpretation of the roles and duties of a social worker. You can find this on abs.gov.au. The link is below, but you can see there that in Australia, the minimum qualification for a social worker is a bachelor degree or higher. All the degrees in Australia, if it's Bachelor of Social Work or Masters of Social Work, they are accredited and recognized. So it's not just like any college can just, teach social work. It's similar to medicine or, nursing. It is a protected occupation. So some of the duties include acting as a facilitator between clients and community services, assessing resources for the patient for health, housing, as well as employment, conducting individual and family interviews. And the purpose of that is to really identify the nature of problems for the client or patient. So a lot of the times you're also acting as a mediator between the patients, the community, and other agencies as well. So these are just some of the duties of a social worker. Australia needs more social workers. So you'll hear a lot of people kind of promoting this course and talking about this. Look, I'm not one for promoting courses as such. I won't say, yep, you study this, you'll get PR, because nothing is for certain. If a client does ask me, hey, I've heard about Masters of Social Work or Bachelor of Social Work, is it good for permanent residency? I will sit there, I will assess the requirements, I will assess the pathway for them, and then I'll look at the recent invitations and then look at the demand and advise according like that. And I do strongly believe that social work is a good occupation for permanent residency. It is very much in demand. But look, you do need to factor in that the time it takes to study, by the time you do it, all of that, it is hard. But if you have just finished a Bachelor of Social Work or a Masters of Social Work and you're ready to apply right now, then that's a different scenario altogether. So anyway, let's have a look at the requirements and some of the pathways. Now, it's important to note that this occupation is on the medium-term list. So there is a lot of visa pathways for this occupation. I'll drop a link below so you guys can have a look at that. But basically, if the occupation's on the medium-term list, you're eligible for the 491, for the 189, for the 190, for the 186. Like, there's lots of visa options there for you. So again, when I'm advising and clients are asking me if this is one of the good permanent residency pathways, then yeah, these are some of the factors that I consider and I advise on. To study this course, this is not really our area, but but I am aware that you must fulfill some prerequisites. So just like, when I did year 12 and you want to do medicine or you want to do nursing or something, you must have some sort of background, whether it's in science, you must have studied those prerequisite courses. So the same goes for Masters of Social Work. There are some people who did like Bachelor of Accounting and they want to do a Masters now, obviously to help with permanent residency pathways. And they asked me, can I do a Masters of Social Work? Well, I guess the situation there is before you even consider the permanent residency for that, will the university actually accept you? Now, a couple years ago, it was easier to get in social work, but now they've put a lot of prerequisites into place. So just be very careful. If you don't have that background or at least work experience in the area, it's very hard to get the admission to study Masters of Social Work. Bachelor may be a little bit different, but rule of thumb, you need to have completed a Bachelor of Social Work or Master of Social Work to even qualify for this occupation. So let's just assume all goes well and you've applied for this and you've completed the degree. What you'll need to do is you'll need to apply for a skills assessment with AASW. Again, I'll drop a link below, but here is what the website looks like. And then you'll need to have your minimum English requirements, as mentioned in my previous videos. The minimum English requirement for any skilled migration occupation is 6 each in IELTS. Most social workers would definitely have at least 7 each. You can imagine it's a lot of talking in this occupation. You are basically communicating to the patients in between, allied health professionals, in between the doctors and nurses. So your communication skills need to be very, very high. So most social workers definitely have 7 each in IELTS. And for purposes of applying for expression of interest, you want to have a competitive application. So in that situation, you need to have higher English. So, some of our social workers have proficient English, which is equivalent to 7 each. Some of our social workers have superior English, which is equivalent to 8 each in IELTS. So once you have that, you'll be able to apply for an expression of interest. Now, most of our applicants who are social workers this financial year have already been invited. So anyone who's already eligible, has a skills assessment, they've already received an invitation to apply for permanent residency. A lot of them through the 190 and a lot of them through the 189 visa as well. So if you meet the requirements of those visas specifically, you can submit an expression of interest and then wait to be invited. And again, as I said, you migrate through your occupation, and if your occupation is in demand, then there's a high chance that you will get invited and get invited very quickly. I hear people, saying, Australia only needs nurses and doctors or whatever it is. It's true because of what happened with the pandemic. But, 3 years ago, before the pandemic and all of this happened, it was very hard for nurses to get permanent residency. It wasn't straightforward because it wasn't in demand as some of the other occupations. So, when I look at this situation, I think it's very fair and absolutely makes sense. So, social worker is in demand. You'll submit your expression of interest, hopefully, and then you'll get invited and then you'll be able to lodge your visa application. Now, again, because it's in demand, the processing time for a visa has been very quick. Some of our social workers have gotten their grants within like 3 months. Is something very, very quick. Just something ridiculous is very, very quick. So when you are considering all these factors, it's a good course if you like being a social worker and you want to obtain permanent residency. But you never study it just for permanent residency. That's not the way that we like to see things, because at the end of the day, if you study it, you've spent thousands and thousands of dollars. Bachelor and Master of Social Work in Australia, I know it's quite expensive. So you do need to consider that. If you've finished it and you're ready to apply now, that's excellent, and you'll probably get invited because of the recent invitation rounds. All social workers have been invited. But if you're going to start it now, just remember, hey, you do have to study it for 2 years. So once you do finish and you're ready to apply, it might take a couple of invitation rounds for you to get invited, because you just got to see what the demand and, the allocated places are at that time. So it's something that's really important for people to consider, essentially. That is my explanation of social workers. I'll drop a link below to, job duties. Be very careful about the degree as well. Make sure that is actually the accredited degree and the occupation outcome is social worker in Australia, because it's one of those occupations in Australia that, are very specific. As I previously mentioned, I am the principal lawyer at Mason Chan Law Group. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, our official contact details are below. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.